Warming bracket!
What's going on, everyone? So here's my latest review of Contagion. That's right, Contagion turns 10 this year, so for myself, I was like, you know what? This gives me a very good reason to actually sit down and review this movie for you guys. I personally have a 10-year relationship with this film, if I'm being honest. I will never forget when this movie came out. Seeing the trailers, it made it seem like it was a disaster film. Like, holy cow, this movie, like, there's gonna be so much death. Like, holy cow, like almost like a Roland Emmerich type movie. And then you watch the movie and you're like, it's not like that at all. It is a procedural movie. And even at age, I believe I was like, 15, 16, I forget the age exactly. No. Contagion turns 10 this year, came out in 2011, September of said year, and I will never forget when this movie came out. I remember seeing the trailer quite often when I saw Captain America a couple times, as well as a couple other summer movies I had seen. I had seen the trailer for Contagion quite a bit, and I remember every single time I saw the trailer, I was like, this movie looks really good, and it has Matt Damon too. Man, this is going to be great, especially because during that time period, I was really into disaster movies, and I was like, this seems like such a good disaster movie, and especially the way that, you know, it got marketed and advertised. Not only that, in addition to getting good reviews and a lot of positive feedback, I was pretty pumped. The only problem was, and I've slowly started revealing this on my channel, I had a kind of childhood where there was a lot of things I wasn't really able to watch, especially because of like foul language or nudity or drugs or violence. Actually, no, violence my parents were more okay with, but still. Contagion was a movie that, because it was PG-13, literally for disturbing content and some language, I wasn't able to see this movie in theaters, unfortunately. Which, again, I was saddened by, because when this movie came out, it came out the same day as Warrior, and I wanted to see both movies, but I couldn't because both movies had foul language. So I was disappointed by that. But what happened was I decided to actually buy it on DVD when it came out, I believe, in January of 2012. So I picked it up, and instead of telling really my parents that I bought it and everything, I went over to my friend's house and watched it there instead of watching it at home. Because at home, my parents had something called ClearPlay, which is essentially a DVD player that removes the language and violence and all that stuff I just mentioned. Yeah. So that being said, watching at my friend's house, he didn't have that. So I was able to watch it the way that the director intended it. And I remember watching it, and afterwards, I was the only one that liked it, of my two friends that I watched it with and his family. I was the only one that liked it because, again, the way it was marketed and everything, it was marketed to be like this big disaster, seeming how like billions of people were going to die, or just even millions. And when you watch the movie, it is a procedural movie. It is a movie that's taken its time. It's having it where the characters are all over the place, almost like, say, Magnolia, but you're gradually getting to understand how each character is dealing with this pandemic. And honestly, this movie, I am not going to lie, when I saw it at my friend's house, even afterwards, I saw it like 3-4 times within a month. Because the fact of the matter was, this movie really made me who I am in terms of being a germaphobe. After watching this movie, I started actually washing my hands constantly. And still to this day, I am like that. And honestly, it prepared me for the pandemic of 2020. And as of the filming of this video, that's still going on. I rewatched Contagion actually at the beginning of the pandemic, and it's really kind of crazy how accurate and foretelling of the future it was. Because this movie really does a great job of showcasing, honestly, the panic, how some people don't really believe that, you know, this is real or, you know, fake. And I really like that. I like the media aspect too. Jude Law's character, I think, does a really good job of what we see now as, like, you know, when people are like, it's fake news, it's the media, it's, you know, not a real vaccine. There's going to be magnetized if you get the vaccine. Like, Jude Law's character is literally that character. And I think it's fascinating that 10 years ago, the writer Scott Z. Burns literally was like, yeah, if something like this were to happen, like this, there would be a character like that. So it's interesting to see that. And then you obviously have Matt Damon, the everyday man, who's like, you know, just casually going about this, like trying to figure things out, whilst at the same time trying to have it where it's like his kids have a life, but at the same time also, you know, at the same time make them protected. So I like that. I like the fact that, you know, Scott Z. Burns and Soderbergh did this because it made it feel grounded in reality. Like, you really did feel like this is something that could happen, especially with everything that's been going on as of late in the past year or so. So it's crazy, man. It's really crazy. And I also love the color grading. The cinematography in this movie is drenched in color. I love it. The neon lighting is just, it's really something to behold. That combined with Cliff Martinez's score, holy cow. Like, even when I saw this 10 years ago, I knew there was something special about the way it was shot. And I also love the editing, especially the opening scene, like the montage of, like, you know, just the focus on hands, like how, like, you know, literally, you know, you'll touch your face, which I truthfully do a lot, but then I'll wash my hands, but you'll see someone like touch their face, and then you'll see them touch a railing, and then you'll see someone else then touch the railing, and it's like then how it contrasts. And I love that. That opening scene really sets the stage for the movie that you are about to experience. And honest to God, like, again, as someone that watched it as a teenager, it really, really put me in the mindset and really gave me a fresh perspective, which, let's be honest, I love movies that make me nourish and learn things. And this movie did. There's a lot of things that you could look at as exposition, but I personally, the exposition I think is needed. A lot of cases, exposition I don't think is needed, but this movie relishes an exposition that I think personally is needed because the average person is not going to understand this. If you didn't have the exposition that they have, and if it wasn't executed the way that it was, you wouldn't understand what's going on and the immediacy of this, as well as just the whole panic aspect of how it's like, well, we got to go about this a certain way, otherwise people are going to panic. And I like that. I like the fact that they went about it. The exposition I found to be fascinating. The dialogue, the writing of it, it worked really well. I also love the ending, like the opening scene, how it matches the ending. The ending, I think, is honestly amazing because it really hits home the importance of hygiene and washing your hands and not just rubbing a rag. Like, I love it. I really do love this movie in those aspects. And again, I also just love the attention to detail. You know, just like what little characters will do in terms of like side characters where it's like they'll do something like this. And then, you know, there's this trust of Scott Z. Burns' writing of like he trusts the audience to be able to follow along and keep up with all these characters. And I liked it. I thought that it worked really well. That being said, I do feel like some people, and even to an extent for myself, I do feel like some people might think that the characters are a bit distant because, again, you're focusing on so many different characters that it's kind of like in and out. There are some characters that literally, I don't want to say are dropped per se, but like there'll be something that the character is about to do and they're like running and then you don't really get to see what happened. So it's kind of like almost left up to the viewer's interpretation of like, hey, what happened to that character? But again, because the movie's going for realism, I'm able to accept that to an extent because, again, it makes sense. You don't always get to know about certain characters, like, or in life, like how certain people will go out of your life, and you don't know what necessarily happened to them. And so I thought that just kind of honestly added to the realism. But characters are kind of kept to a distance. There's a lot of times where characters do things and it's like it feels kind of cold and sterile, but you know, obviously, again, being as how we're in a pandemic and everything, we can honestly adhere to the fact that that's kind of accurate, I personally think. But if you're going for a movie that's like very character-driven and drenched in like, oh my goodness, emotional moments, you're going to be kind of distant, I feel like. But if you're looking for a movie that is a good procedural movie that really honestly puts you in the mindset of like all different perspectives of a pandemic, I think you'll like this movie. Because Contagion, for me, it's a good movie. It's very well crafted. It's one of Soderbergh's best. And you know what? Screw it. I'm going to be giving Steven Soderbergh's Contagion a 4 to 5 star rating, which gets the good old Louisiana Crystal Pure Hot Sauce. I like this movie. This is a good movie. And yeah, I would highly recommend it. Again, it's amazing to see just how much it interpreted, honestly, with how America has dealt with, you know, this whole pandemic. And other countries too. I forgot to mention that this movie, Contagion, it doesn't just focus on America. It also focuses on other countries and how they deal with it. And I also really like the editing. I forgot to even mention this, and I apologize. I also like the editing and honestly the text that shows like, you know, the state, either the state or the country and the population, and then also like, you know, just like the day one. I like that. I thought that was really good. Forgot to mention that. So it's a very creative movie. A 4 to 5 star rating is definitely warranted. This is a good movie. So Contagion, would definitely recommend it, especially if you're into the procedural aspect and want to gain knowledge about this topic. So yeah, Contagion, it's a good movie. Would recommend it, and I'm very curious to hear your guys' thoughts if you've seen it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And as always, don't forget the subscription, notification bell, and I'll catch you guys later.